Welcome back, and in this video we are going to learn about the differences in fetal placental circulation from what we just talked about in the adult. So the first thing you need to realize is after about 3 months of gestation, all the nutrition, respiratory, and excretory needs of the fetus, of the unborn child, are met by the placenta, which means the baby doesn't have to breathe because it's getting its oxygen from the mom. The baby doesn't have to get rid of waste in its kidneys because it's sending it back to mom. The baby doesn't have to eat because it's getting all its nutrients from mom. So mom really is eating for two and working for two, and there's a reason why pregnant moms are tired. So the next concept, and it's super important, mom's blood does not mix with baby's blood. Things will diffuse from one to the other, but the blood itself never mixes. So I want to show you what happens on this picture, which is a little bit complicated, but it has both an up close and a far away thing. So when you're looking at this at first, what I want you to realize is this dark purple area, that's meant to be the inside of the mother's uterus. And here is the baby in its amniotic sac floating around in dark pink amniotic fluid. And then this light pink area is meant to be the smooth muscle in the wall of the mom's uterus. And so the baby is tethered by an umbilical cord to the placenta, which it grows into the wall of the mom's uterus. So the two circulations do not mix. So here is what happens. In the mom's uterus, we have blood vessels, the maternal circulation. Nutrients, oxygen will diffuse across placental tissues, and will keep on diffusing until it diffuses into the fetal circulation to bring elements to the fetus. And from the fetal circulation, we will have elements in higher concentration. They're fused down from the fetal circulation through the placental elements into the maternal circulation. So it's a two-way diffusion going on. So how do we get, let me go back to the previous picture. How do we get this blood to and from the placenta? Well, in the umbilical cord, there are blood vessels, your typical artery and the vein. But here's the thing, there's 3 blood vessels, 2 of one kind and 1 of the other. And students always are going, oh, how do I remember which one's which? So let's look where the arteries come from. So here is, for instance, a drawing of a baby with its abdominal aorta, which then branches right over the iliac bones to go down into the lower extremity. And these iliac arteries actually branch, and this right here and this right here, these are called the internal iliac arteries. So the baby has 2 of them. And coming off of each of them, you have the artery that's going to be the umbilical artery. So there are 2 umbilical arteries. So here's showing the diagram superimposed over a baby who actually has a wire in one of the umbilical arteries. So the round circle is showing where the belly button, or well, not where the belly button is next to the body, but where it was clipped off. So it's where the end of the stump is. And they have actually threaded a wire into the umbilical artery, which then goes into that internal iliac, to that common iliac, up the abdominal aorta into the thoracic aorta. And this is so they can take blood samples and monitor oxygen content right from the artery itself. Okay. So umbilical arteries are carrying the baby's arterial blood into the umbilical cord to the placenta. Okay. So here is what the umbilical cord looks like right after birth. You cut it off, you put this little clip on it, and if you look at it, you can see 1, 2, 3 blood vessels. So 2 arteries and a vein. And when you look at it, it looks kind of smushy because it is. This is where we have our 8th and final type of connective tissue. and it's called mucus connective tissue. It's the only place it is found, and that's in the umbilical cord. And it's also sometimes called Wharton's jelly because it does look like white, kind of like apple jelly. All right, so 2 umbilical arteries in the umbilical cord, 1 umbilical vein. 2 arteries because the arteries are coming from the baby's 2 arteries. 1 vein, so the vein is traveling toward the baby's heart. So if you can remember that the umbilical cord is part of the baby and not part of the mom, because moms don't have a bunch of umbilical cords sitting around in their uterus just waiting in case they get pregnant. I can't tell you how many times when I ask students, they always go, no, that's the mom's tissue. I go, no, it comes with the baby. Okay, so the umbilical cord is baby tissue. So arteries in the umbilical cord are going away from the baby's heart, and the vein is going towards the baby's heart. So here's the interesting thing. The vein is going towards the baby's heart, which means it's coming away from the mom, but it's carrying mom's oxygen, it's carrying mom's nutrients. So the umbilical vein is actually carrying the oxygenated blood. So the umbilical vein you would draw as a red line because this is the oxygenated blood going towards the baby. Now, after birth, the umbilical vein on the inside becomes something called the round ligament of the liver, but you don't need to know that. It's just like, it doesn't just disappear, it stays behind its dense connective tissue. So back to the baby, what's happening? All right, so here's the baby's aorta, and here are the 2, in purple, the 2 umbilical arteries going towards the placenta. And then the red one is the umbilical vein carrying the oxygenated blood courtesy of mommy, goes through the belly button here. Now it's inside the abdomen, and it's rich in oxygen and nutrients. And this vein then has to dump its contents into one of the baby's veins. And it does it through a structure known as the ductus venosus, as in vein duct. So this is the shortcut that's at the liver, and it carries blood from one vein, the umbilical vein, to another vein, the baby's inferior vena cava. And in the baby's inferior vena cava, which has the deoxygenated blood from the baby coming from the lower extremity, this oxygenated blood gets mixed with it before it returns to the heart. So it's not highly oxygenated blood going to the baby's heart. It's actually commingled blood already. Now, once you're born, this closes up and we can see the remnant of the ductus venosus in adults, and it's called the ligamentum venosa. So looking at the fetal circulation on another picture, just to make sure you get it. Start with the baby's abdominal aorta, find the 2 umbilical arteries exiting through the belly button. That makes the 3rd blood vessel the umbilical vein, which then is going to go into the ductus venosus and finally into the inferior vena cava before it dumps into the heart. So at this point, I'd like you to pause this and look at this picture and try to follow the pathway of blood. This structure down here in the lower left, that is the placenta. This triangular structure is the baby's liver. This is the baby's spleen, so don't worry about this. This dark purple one is the baby's aorta, and the blue one is the baby's inferior vena cava. So just mute it and let it play while I was talking over it, and make sure you can follow the pathway of flow and you understand why some is bright red and some is blue and some is that in-between color. And once you are done with that, congratulations, we are done with blood vessels. Thank you for all your hard work, and ask me if you have any questions about fetal circulation. I'll be happy to clarify any questions you have. Have a great